Good evening and welcome to the Fredonia Central School District Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021. If everyone would please rise and recite the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The board has reserved this time to hear comments from the audience. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give their name and address, and limit their comments to 5 minutes or less per individual or group. Concerns and comments during this session should be directly related to items listed on the proposed agenda for this meeting. Audience members seeking a response should complete a board correspondence sheet and return it to our district clerk, Christine Slagle, up front here. Audience members are asked to adhere to social distancing regulations when addressing the Board of Education. Is there anyone who would like to address the board tonight on the agenda items? No? Okay.
Yeah, a little to us.
Thank you, Ms. Slagle. So we have a proposed consent agenda. Adoption of the consent agenda upon a motion and a second and an affirmative vote by members present approves each and every item so designated. However, prior to the adoption of the consent agenda, any board member may remove any item from the consent agenda. This item will then come up for discussion as part of the regular agenda. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite routine matters so that the board has more time to deal with substance matters. So we have a proposed agenda, proposed agenda. If I could have a motion to bring that to the floor, please. Ms. Powell-Fortner and Ms. Gullo seconding that. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull out of the agenda, of the consent agenda? We're all good? Okay. So there are just the two things that we're pulling out, personnel A and new business A. So all those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. So we have minutes from the last meeting from February 9th. Can I have a motion to bring those to the floor for approval, please?
So,
Mr. Forrester and Mr. Johnston. Any questions, comments, corrections on that? All those in favor of approving signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have the financial treasurer's report, and I don't know if Mr. Forbes was joining us or if we should just table that. He'll be joining us in executive, possibly.
correct.
Okay, so we're going to take the financial treasurer's report and table that. I believe that I need a motion to table that because it's on the approved agenda. So if I could have a motion, Ms. Gallo, to table that, and we need a second on the table, correct?
Correct.
Yes, and a second?
And that's table until the next meeting.
Yeah, it is correct.
Second.
And Ms. Powell-Fortner.
Mr. Aldrich, if you have Mr. Hoff now,
Wonderful.
so I'm just going to put him on the sheet.
Hi, Tom. So we're at number 5, the financial treasurer's report, and we have made a motion and a second to table it till the next meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. So 6, 7, and 8 are all consent, correct? Yes. I did not. highlight that out. We have the approval of an individual to a probationary position, Megan Narroway, to a 6.5-hour-a-day, 10-month-a-year position. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Mr. Johnson, and a second?
Second.
Who's got the coin to flip? Ms. Powell Ford now. Any questions? Ms. Narroway's not here. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Wonderful. That's taken care of. So we have the approval of 14 Dell computers, if we want to call them that, I guess. If we could have a motion to bring that to the floor, please.
So moved.
Ms. Goa, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Powell Fortner. These are parts, but they are from the New York State Office of Student Support Services, and it's just kind of nice to have additional parts. So it will not be full computers that we will be able to divvy out. I guess that's my whole point here, is that we're not increasing our inventory by 14 computers, we're increasing our inventory by parts. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We're going to go here to the public and then superintendent's report. The board has reserved this time to hear comments from the audience. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give their name and address, and limit their comments to 5 minutes or less per individual group. Audience members seeking a response should complete a board correspondence sheet and return it to our district clerk, Christine Slagle. Audience members are asked to adhere to social distancing regulations when addressing the board. Is there anyone who would like to address the board tonight on anything? No? Just some concerned people. That's great. If not, we've got some discussion updates from our superintendent, Mr. Brad Zoliak.
There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for being here. We appreciate your time. A few updates tonight, a couple of key topics, although it is an exciting time and there's a lot going on in the district. We are keeping our eye on the big picture and getting back to some of our strategic pieces. So a quick couple words on mission, vision, and core beliefs tonight, then transitioning into our return to school, then some athletic updates, some state assessments information, as well as some new reporting we've been asked to do by the state. So we'll touch on all of those. Again, one of the things I did as part of my entry interviews and surveys was gather feedback and input from the community, and this has really been helpful in helping me learn about the district and have information I might not otherwise have. So that kind of led us into potential next steps and topics that came up recurring throughout those conversations and throughout the survey. And one of them was questioning where we stood with vision and beliefs and goals as a district. Is that something we have done a good job of communicating and is a part of our common vocabulary or not? So we started having this conversation about mission. And these things are really at the foundation of our school district. So mission explains our purpose. Vision is a motivational statement about what we aspire to become. And again, the organization's core values are things that drive both behavior and decision-making throughout the district. And the one question that came out of all of that survey regarding this topic is, do we know and share a common mission, vision, and core beliefs across the district? So we are in the process of putting together some surveys that will go out both internally in the district and to the public as well, posing some questions around this one question, and we'll probably break it down into a couple questions about mission and a couple about vision and a couple about core beliefs, to get some perspectives here about, where do we stand? Do people feel like we have a vision? If so, do they know what that is? And the same for the other things. So just really trying to get a sense of what the perceptions are out there, and then how might we be able to best move forward? And is there a need to revisit, review, potentially adjust any of these statements, or to update them to be more reflective of our current faculty and staff? So that is work that will be going on in the background, probably over the next month or so and beyond. But again, we are keeping our eye on that big picture and those strategic pieces that will help move us forward in the future from our current state. So return to school, definitely a big topic, and like I said, some excitement in Fredonia about this. And remember that we had a return to school committee that came together, and it was really about bringing stakeholders together to think about and plan for next steps, be proactive and forward thinking at least as much as possible in a very unpredictable time. It allowed our buildings to meet and gather and start to put together draft plans. It also allowed our committee to respond and offer feedback to these plans, and the goal was really to put some clear parameters and guidelines about how we would move forward at each of our buildings. We also recognize that we're going to need to continue to be ready to adjust and adapt as we move forward. And our building level principals, along with the faculty and staff, did a great job of piecing some things together that were initially draft plans. And over the last week, we've been able to solidify these as ways that we will move forward here in the next week. So grades 3 and 4 will return to school in person 5 days a week beginning March 1. Middle school, initially, as part of the process, we'll start with grade 5, and those students will return 5 days a week beginning March 1 as well. And for our high school, we're going to continue with our remote days on Mondays, and phase in high school over a period of a few weeks. So grade 12 will start March 2, grade 9 on March 16, and grades 10 and 11 on March 23. Yep.
Sorry, can you just comment on 6, 7, 8, just
Yep.
to cover the bases?
I'm glad you mentioned that,
Oh,
because
super, super.
in all the excitement about what was moving forward, I could have absolutely done a much better job of communicating around grades 6, 7, and 8, instead of just saying more information to follow on the other grade levels. I apologize for that. That is completely my responsibility, and I feel badly that I didn't provide the families and students the information that they were hoping for. So the conversation really became, do we want to hold the grades that we have a plan in place and we believe can work until the other grades get resolved, or are we going to move forward and sort of phase this in over time? And we agreed that if certain grades were ready, we were going to move forward, and then we'll continue to work on the other ones. And that's really what happened in this situation, that there are some complexities at grades 6, 7, and 8 that we're struggling with, but we're working through it and we're starting to make progress. And at the middle school, there are a limited number of rooms, and some of the grades, like for example, grade 6 have some large numbers. So grade 6 has about, I think it's a little over 101 students who are looking to return to school when we do that. So our classrooms can hold about 14 students. So if you do quick math, you'll recognize that we would need about 7 rooms to house those 6th graders. And we don't have the 7 rooms available. So again, we're being creative, we're being thoughtful, we're looking at other areas of the building, and to be honest, there's not a whole lot of room, but we're finding places, and I appreciate everything that's been done across the board, but I in no way want anyone to think that this is any way connected to our middle school faculty, staff, administration, not working hard, not being very diligent, not really putting in the time and effort to figure out a way to make this work. It's just a little bit complex at these grade levels, and not that it's not across the board, but these ones we're struggling with a little more than others. So we're continuing to work in this area. There is more information coming soon. I know we've tested people's patience a little bit with these grades, but we're hopeful that we'll have information out within the next week or so as to how we're going to best move forward. So again, I tend to be a reflective administrator. I recognize that the communication wasn't what it could have or should have or needed to be. And you use these as a learning experience, not to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. And in the future, I can definitely do better. And this will be not something that's repeated. So again, my apologies to those students and families. I did follow up with a second letter to the community through our district avenues and social media, trying to correct this after the initial communication went out this past Friday. So a lot of people to thank in all of this. First and foremost, for those people who responded to our commitment surveys. As we had mentioned several times, we really needed to understand what families would remain in their current mode of either fully remote or attending a private school, to understand how many students would be coming back and can we fit them into the spaces that we have available. So thank you to everybody who filled out that survey and made a decision about that. Our RTS committee has been great. It's a cross-section of stakeholders internally and also a few parents from around the district. And this was not an easy committee to be part of. Some committees are, about, how are we going to celebrate this particular group of students for all the good work they've done over the time they've been here at Fredonia. Those tend to be light and fun and ends with some type of celebration. This committee, was really tasked with some difficult challenges and really took the time to hang in there and see them through. And I think we're going to see the benefits of all that work over the next week here. Also to our entire faculty and staff, I can't tell you in the time that I've been here, the overwhelming impression of just hard work and dedication and people trying to do everything they can to make things work. So we certainly appreciate that. The same is true of our administrative staff. The same is true of our Board of Education, who's been supporting us in the background throughout. And also I appreciate those who have been reaching out with questions, concerns, or ideas. I think all we can ask is that people reach out and communicate with us. At times there are conversations out in the community that never come to us, and we don't have the chance to address things, and we don't have the chance for a conversation. So thank you for those who have done that, and that, to be honest, includes both positive and negative feedback. And we appreciate both. The feedback we get from outside the building is important to us. It causes us to reflect and potentially to adjust and adapt what we're doing to really, in the end, meet the needs of our students. And I just appreciate also people keeping the faith and hanging in here and recognizing that this was a process and it couldn't be resolved overnight. And especially just after break in the beginning of January, we had infection rates that were very high, and things were a little dicey. So I appreciate people hanging in there and just continuing to be positive and look for ways to make it work. Please remember that anytime you have questions, probably your building level administrator is your best bet, or if your son or daughter is involved in special education, I would reach out to Mrs. Farrow. But again, we are here to help, and feel free to reach out anytime. Athletics, we talked about a couple weeks ago, and swimming and bowling had been in play, and then we added basketball that began practice on February 1. And a couple weeks ago, they had their first game that we checked out a little bit. And at that time, the state was saying, and the section was saying, that there would be no spectators. But I did want people to keep in mind that we are live streaming games, and the equipment that we have is great, and it's really a nice, clear picture compared to what things used to look like back in the day. So I also wanted to just revisit one more time that the First Ward Falcon Club, again, a generous donation in the honor of Roger Pecos, and we appreciate that. I had a chance to see this in person over the last week or so, and it's really a great table and a great tribute to Roger. So thank you to the Falcon Club, and also, a nice way to remember Roger for all he did for the district and community. So there's a little bit of shift now. Section 6, the executive committee had met. They had reached out to us with a survey and said, what do we think about spectators? And they got feedback from all districts across Section 6. And starting tomorrow, if you have the space, if you can social distance, teams are allowed to have 2 home spectators per game per student. Now, again, in smaller gyms, this is not as possible. Our modified gym or our middle school gym is not as suited to social distancing. The bleachers are very small. So for us, we're going to implement this at the JV and varsity level, where 2 spectators will be allowed. And thank you to our coaches who are going to help facilitate this, along with Mr. Lauer, our AD. We appreciate all their hard work. But that will happen at tomorrow night's game. And for bowling, which is off campus, it is really going to be up to that facility to decide what they want to do with spectators, and we're going to be supportive of whatever it is they decide wherever our students may be bowling. So good news, we're excited about that. A lot of positive comments from students as well as parents today. Also a little bit of information from our state ed department around state assessments. Now the Biden administration and the U.S. Department of Education had sent out some information reminding us all of the value and the importance of state assessments, and that they do give us good information, data, and feedback about student learning, and really their intent to keep state assessments in the mix over the course of this school year. Our state had applied for a waiver, and the response was that there would not be any blanket waivers of no state assessments will be needed. And there was a little bit of disappointment from our state ed department about that. But they did say that no child would be made to come to school to take an assessment. And that's important for our families that are looking to remain fully remote. And the U.S. Department of Education also agreed to disconnect the state assessments from ESSA accountability requirements. So those tests will not carry the weight that they have in the past, in which our school districts, for lack of a better word, are judged on our effectiveness based on a point-in-time assessment. Lastly, they will propose a series of regulatory amendments at the March Board of Regents meeting, and they will look that Regents exams will not be required as a graduation requirement, and also to cancel any Regents exams that is not required by the U.S. government to be held. So more information to follow on that. There are dialogue back and forth between New York State and the U.S. Department of Education, and we'll see exactly where we land, but that's the information that we have at this point in time. Lastly, again, something that came up just earlier today, that we are going to be asked to report as a school the number of teachers that have been vaccinated, the number of teachers providing in-class instruction, and the percentage of the week that is designated to in-class instruction. So this will be added to the reporting that we're already doing, but it's just some additional information that came out today. And again, it seems like this happens every meeting. Right before coming to the meeting tonight, there was a memo that went out from Chautauqua County Health Department that said quarantines will no longer be required for most fully vaccinated persons. So we'll be looking into this, make sure we fully understand any of the details or any of the limitations on this. but this potentially be helpful to having people remain in the building and not needing to get subs. And it could also ease some of the tension around travel and people being out of the state. So we're continuing to better understand exactly what this means, and we'll be looking to implement whatever that guidance is. So, questions about any of that?
I have two questions.
Sure.
On the return to school committee,
Yep.
definitely appreciate thanking everyone that's been involved, but I just wanted to, it sounded a little bit like the return to school committee is that committee in its current form over based on where we are in the process, or?
No, and I'm sorry if I said that. So I feel like we're kind of in between phase right now where we put some plans in place. Now those are being implemented, and I think we'll be looking for feedback from the RTS committee on the next round of planning that would specifically involve 6 through 8, and anything else we might be able to tweak at any of the other grade levels if there's any other pieces left unresolved. So no, I don't want anyone to feel like we're done, it's over, but I feel like we're in a little bit of a pause right now while we kind of implement and then get ready for the next round of planning.
I totally appreciate we have a big round of implementation coming up over the next several weeks.
Yep.
But knowing that we have middle school still to go, but also extracurricular additional activities and things that are not fully returned to normal. So,
Right.
The opportunity maybe to focus on some of those other components as well.
Sure, absolutely.
And then the second question, which you may not, you mentioned it just came out, but the new reporting, when they ask for designated in-class instruction.
Mhm.
So, for example, we're providing 4 days of in-class instruction, but it might only be the students are getting 2 days. So,
Yeah.
I just think it'll be interesting to see how are those metrics recorded, and will there be some consistency so we can kind of compare, well, yes, we're offering in-person instruction 4 days a week, but our students are actually only getting 2 days in some
Right.
of the grades, so.
Yeah. That's a good question, and we're still, again, trying to understand exactly. So the wording is the percentage of the week that is designated for in-class instruction. So in my mind, reading that, I would believe they're talking about any time that there's in-class instruction. Is it group A, group B, or, what? To me, it seems like it's trying to gauge how much of the time our teachers are providing in-class instruction. I could be wrong. This is, again, pretty new information, and we're sifting our way through it. David O'Rourke always does a good job of pulling us together when some information like this comes up. So we have a meeting tomorrow, the Erie 2 CAT superintendents, where we should get some clarification.
I do think, right, that's two different measures. The
Yep.
teacher in person versus the student
Right.
instruction in person. So,
Yep. Agreed.
thank you.
Sure.
I just had a question too. I had that same question about the in-person, so thank you for that. But then I was just wondering if you can comment on the high school return. It's with that staggered start. Is that due to space, or just want to work out the kinks, or what's that?
Well, I'll let Darren speak to a couple things, but I think the thing we wanted to make sure we didn't do, because there's a little unpredictability here, that we did have some people respond to our survey that, no, I'm not willing to commit to remaining out the whole year. And there's maybe a little clarity that we need to provide about, does that mean I can come back March 1? Or do I have to wait till the 10 weeks? And we're working our way through that, and we have an administrative meeting tomorrow about that. But I think we just want to make sure that this goes extremely well, that there's no glitches and there's no situations where anybody would look at it as we're being unsafe, or we had a large collection of students in one area, and I think we're just being cautious while still moving forward. Darren, what else could you add to that?
In addition to that, the senior class is an appropriate size that we won't need to do any rotations of kids out of classes to start off with. I wanted to give teachers an opportunity to get accustomed to how we're going to be examining classes that are larger where, we might have 18 kids showing up for a class that seats 14, and having an appropriate and fair process of identifying which kids are going to be rotating out and making sure that we're not hitting the same kids every single time. So I wanted to get that process in place over the first 2 weeks while the seniors are here, so the teachers are trained and understand, because we just brought this out to them last week, so they needed time for that. Also, I needed time to hire an additional aide to help with, there's going to be some overflow for some of our study halls in the middle of the day, especially around lunch periods where we have a lot of our aides that are helping with monitoring our lunches, and I needed to make sure that we weren't overloading those, so we're hiring a person for that before we bring everybody back, and that gives us the time to do it.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, we discussed the assessments and how New York State isn't going to give a blanket waiver for all assessments. But, there's many different reasons for testing our students, seeing what their aptitude is. And one is the obvious, to see how much they've learned. I can understand that we don't want to assess the students to then go to the teachers and say, wow, you did a crummy job this year, especially in this environment, because I don't think any of them are doing a crummy job. I think that they're putting in a lot of work. I think we can also look at the school and say, how is the school trying to overcome some of these things? But one of the concerns I have with, and maybe I'm not reading this right, but there has to be some kind of an assessment here somewhere so that we can look forward to next year's teaching and say, okay, our K through 4 did a good job of remote learning, and they still were able to learn some things, but there were some problems in certain grades that we need to catch up, because we can't just ignore this year. There's a definite learning gap in here, and we have to prepare for it for this coming fall, and bringing students back at a grade higher that may not have had the educational gains that they should have, through no fault of their own or no fault of the school or the teachers. But I think that we have to have some kind of a game plan come this fall of how do we address this.
Yeah.
And we won't know unless we do assess the students.
Right. So just a small clarification, I know this is kind of picky. So New York State actually applied for a waiver for the assessments. It was the U.S. Department of Education that said, no, we're not just going to say you don't have to give any assessments at all. So now there's a little give and take between, well, what assessments are actually going to be in play and are not. But basically, what the federal government was saying is, we're not just going to say no state assessments. And what you're saying, to a certain degree, depending on what article or researcher you might look to, is true. So I think either one of two things. We'll have some state assessments that we can use, or if we don't, kind of like when we were first into working through our teacher evaluation systems, and we started to create our own assessments at the beginning of the year, I think we could manage something like that. And I think part of the mentality is, do we really want to put kids into more of a high stakes feel to an assessment this year with everything that they've been through and everything that the educational system is going through? Or should we defer to the teachers that they've had to create assessments that would just be given in classrooms, or as part of maybe an exam week that doesn't carry the same energy and the same weight and the same anxiety? So I think either way, we'll have information. It just depends on whether that will come from us internally or from a state assessment. And again, we also have iReady and Mr. Drollinger, what's the other program I'm still learning?
So you're right, we do universally screen all of our students 3 times a year using Fast Range right now.
Fast Range,
So we can
okay.
certainly look at that, and we can actually drill down and compare our in-person students to our remote students. That's something that we wouldn't have the ability to do.
Yeah, I think if state assessments aren't given, like regions that, I'm thinking of, a teacher giving an assessment at the end of the year, it's probably important, it's almost like an exit assessment, especially for the sequential courses of mathematics, languages.
Correct.
Where do you send that student on to the next level? How do you know unless you assess them? So, yeah, even probably at the teacher level,
Yeah.
at the end of the year. Otherwise, you don't know where to put that.
Sure.
That student.
Yeah, and then this is going to be an ongoing conversation over the next several months. I mean, there's not an immediate, easy answer here that, hey, if everyone does this, everything will be fine. We have started these conversations amongst our administrative team. This is starting to be more of a conversation at the superintendent level. And, we had a conversation today, does summer school look different than it has in the past? How can we tap into that experience to maybe reach a broader set of students than it has in the past? So we're going to have to be creative, we're going to have to be open-minded, and we're just going to have to chip away at it over the next couple months and put a plan in place.
Okay. So the next regular meeting of the Board of Education is March 9th at 6 p.m. in the high school library right here. We do have the BOCES annual meeting on Wednesday, April 14th via Zoom at 7:30. So there's, if anybody is interested in attending that, Ms. Slagle is going to set that up for us. One of the problems that I have always had in the past, since I've been a board member here, is we're always asked to elect the board members to the BOCES board. And some of these people, I have no clue who they are. I don't have any bio on them. And we're asked to vote when we just have nothing to base our vote on. But at this meeting on the 14th, the members who are going up will be giving a bio, so we will be able to see who is going up and who they are. And then we will be voting on that on the 20th, correct?
I believe it's the 19th.
The 19th?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you are interested in finding out who you're voting for, the board can get into that. Okay. Mr. Zambrone, do you have anything that you'd like to announce? And Mr. Forrester? No? Ms. Powell-Portman?
Just really excited about the return to school plan and very hopeful about the opportunity for our students as well as the additional sports opportunities that are happening and the opportunity for spectators. As parents, it's important to parents too. So thank you for all the hard work on that.
I would say the same. Thank you to everyone. All you working toward your return to school. I'm sure it's been very hard. Thanks to Mr. Lauer for the sports and it is kind of nice to sit on your couch and watch a couple games. So it's not the worst thing to be curled up on your couch, but I am excited to come tomorrow night. So thanks to everybody who's worked on that. It's a lot of hard work.
Mr. Johnston?
I'm good.
You're good? Okay. Mr. Paskey, you've helped explain a little bit about the back to school, and do you have anything else you'd like to add as far as what's going on in the high school?
Sure. With respect to back to school, we are having an optional faculty meeting tomorrow. I just want to give the teachers an opportunity to really dig in and ask any questions. So if there's anything that they have, I've started a shared Google document that they can put any ideas down if they want to discuss the meeting prior. So that's been populated with 5 or 6 questions already. So that's I'm looking forward to having that opportunity with the teachers and really hash out, any of their concerns going into this and make sure that everybody feels comfortable as we welcome our students back next week. Today, we had our first unified bowling practice after school, so the kids were in the gym practicing one-pin bowling, and they did some circle groups. It was very exciting. We had 42 students.
Great.
So, we started this last year, and I just want to thank Mrs. Tomaszewski for her work on this year, and the many other coaches that are helping out. They have a lot of volunteers, so it's fantastic. And Mrs. Sparrow is going to be able to share with you a little bit more with some of the things that the Unified team is going to be doing this year above and beyond just the actual bowling matches. That's pretty cool. Really, other than that, that's kind of been sucking up all of our time. It's just the back to school stuff and working out the logistics, trying to make sure that we do this in a very safe manner. We address all the cleaning needs, the health needs, the safety needs, the educational needs, the busing needs. There's so many factors that we need to make sure that we're covering. And honestly, it's been a joy to do it. I'm excited to be where we are. Our faculty has been incredibly hardworking, and our administrative team has been very supportive of the board, obviously, as well. Thanks to Brad and his leadership. It's been very great, so thank you.
What a difference a year makes.
Yeah.
Ms. Troutman.
So we are very excited. We're preparing for our fifth graders to return on Monday, 5 days a week, and so there's a lot of buzz around, and we're just crossing our T's and dotting our I's to make sure we've thought of everything and we're really ready. I really want you all to know that we are continuing our work on 6, 7, and 8. I think grade 6 we're pretty close with. We didn't think we would be able to do it, but we are moving some rooms. We're working with other buildings, and they're allowing us to use some spaces that we didn't think were an option, and they're having to find someplace else to use their spaces. So I really want to thank the administrative team, because without us all working together, there's no way we could have even considered bringing 6th grade back. So we're getting closer with that one, and we're working on 7th and 8th grade, so I'm hopeful that it will be soon. Like Brad said, within a week, I'm hoping we'll have some communication out to our families as to where we're at. Let's see, we just completed our iWriting winter benchmarking, and so pretty soon we'll be digging into that data and really taking a close look and seeing where our kids are. I glanced at it quickly and initially, we're seeing some progress, and so that's really great. Today, our teachers were involved in some professional development. Erie 2 BOCES, they zoomed in with us during their planning periods and provided us some professional development on playlists and choice boards. Part of our ESSEP is really getting kids more voice and choice within the classroom, because we know they're more engaged when they have that. And so our teachers learned a little bit about how they can use playlists and choice boards in their instruction to give those kids that. So the teachers, all of the teachers attended, and they were pretty excited about it. It was very positive. I know their time is so valuable right now, but they really felt it was beneficial, and they're looking forward to more professional development in that. So I think that's all I have.
Great. Mr. Drowlinger.
Yeah, it's the same thing. The main focus these past 2 weeks has been the return. So we're excited, but we're deep into the process now. We're switching rooms, and it's a team effort, because we need printers moved, we need tables moved, we need desks and chairs and things like that. So, we thank the support of our tech guys, our maintenance guys, our cleaning crew, getting new spaces ready, and the teachers too, because in order for the elementary to return full-time, we needed to reassign 4 teachers. So what they were teaching at the beginning of the year, they're teaching something different now. That's a big ask. It's a big ask anytime, and now on top of a full return. So I thank the teachers a lot for their flexibility and their understanding of the process. And we do anticipate A little bit of increased traffic with the drop-off and the pickup in the mornings and the afternoons. So we have a plan in place to, accommodate the 33% increase that we have. And a communication will go out to the families tomorrow with just a reminder of the procedure for that. But other than that, we're really excited for it. And March 1st is the start date, and it'll be a bit back to normal, I think, we're waiting for it. So we're excited, so we're ready to go.
Great. Ms. Piper, how are you? Good.
It's great.
How's Wheelock?
As Mrs. Snyder can attest to, we are still rolling and everything's wonderful. The kids are outside every day and just continuing to continue on. It's a magical place. Happy, the kids are great, teachers are great, they're working hard, and I really don't have anything else. They're doing great.
Great, thank you. Ms. Farrow?
Sure, I just wanted to continue on with some of the comments that Mr. Paschke was making about unified bowling. So those team members, all 42 of them, are going to be instrumental in promoting a school-wide initiative next week that's called Spread the Word Inclusion. So Wednesday, March 3rd is the recognized day for the beginning of this annual campaign, which is spearheaded by the National Special Olympics Organization. So the Unified Bowling Team has a number of organized activities that they're going to be sharing that include themed dress-up days each day next week. There might even be t-shirts for the administrative team, video clips to be viewed during morning announcements, quotes to be shared, a banner signing at each building level that signifies a pledge for inclusivity in meaningful ways, and the use of music and social media for spreading this message under the hashtag #ChooseToInclude. So thanks again to Mrs. Tomaszewski and her classroom and all the members of the Unified Team for bringing this amazing message to our school and to life in the community.
So your modified bowling has started practice, and modified, your unified, excuse me. Excuse me for misspeaking. And is there any plan for any other unified team this coming year, or this spring?
I don't know. We had asked about basketball. I'm not sure that there's a time for that this
Okay.
year. So, but hopefully, as we move on to the future, yes.
Oh,
I don't
with
know what will happen this year.
42 students involved in bowling, that's
Yeah,
a
it's
very
awesome.
positive,
Right.
yeah, great. So the board is anticipating into going into executive session. It all depends on our vote, actually. So if we don't vote to go in, we don't go in, I guess. But we are done with the meeting. We will not be doing any other business. Once we come out of executive session, we will just go into adjourning. So with that, I need a motion and a second to go into executive session. Thank you, Mr. Cambrone. I knew I could count on you. And a second. Mr. Johnson, thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are now in executive session.